The views and opinions on the Craig L. Hayes Show do not necessarily reflect those of Westgate Resorts, ownership, or management. And now, on with the show.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Get your copies while they last. Stop the presses.
And now for something completely different.
Are you ready for a little truth? Are we not entertained? Wisdom is the proper use of knowledge and experience. There are no safe spaces here. The truth shall make you free. It's showtime! So you want the truth, but can you handle the truth? Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into. Now that's entertainment. Enlighten me a little. What you say is quite logical. And what did we learn? Prepare yourself for a little sensory overload. I came here for the truth. 47 years ago, stand by the roll show intro. Roll show intro in 3, 2, 1, go.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Hello, America, family, friends, and listeners all around the planet we call home. This is the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes, and it is the 28th of April, 2025, and we're doing another series of interviews with people who work behind the scenes in show business. And to continue that series is going to be introducing a friend of mine that I've known for a long time and discussing how he got into show business. But before we get there, I just want to say one more time, we are coming to you from Elvis Presley's dressing room here at the International Theater in the Westgate Resort, Las Vegas. And I want to thank Cammie Christensen for her allowing me. She is the president of the hotel, for allowing me to do this podcast from this historic place, along with Dawn Rawls. She is the vice president of marketing and entertainment, and John Pierre for all getting on board and getting this thing to happen and talk about show business, keep the history of this hotel and the shows that happened here alive, and keep it going so people can listen to this and hear all the magic that happened in this room and in this town. So today, on this episode and in this interview, we're going to be talking to a guy who's been in entertainment a long time and then came in here at a certain point with a very popular entertainer and basically stuck around town and has done about everything you can imagine in this town as far as showbiz. So his name is Jeff Redinger, and Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you inviting me to do this. This is a lot of fun. I feel very honored and privileged to be here.
Okay. Well, I'm Craig, but John's my brother. Everyone does that, so. See, it's live. I don't edit, guys. It's going to go there and it'll be there forever.
Start off on a good foot here.
Nah, it's all good. Like I say, I keep it all in there. All my mistakes I keep, so don't worry about it at all, because there's a list of mine.
Okay.
So, anyhow, Jeff, like I said before, we were talking a little bit. Like you to start off, just tell us a little bit about your pre-show business life, where you came from, and then how you got into it. You got into it pretty dang early into show business, and then where did it go from there? And then basically, how'd you get to Vegas and into 720, local 720, and the history there?
So I was born and raised in a city called Poughkeepsie, New York. It's about 70 miles north of Manhattan. And as a kid, my mother, in an effort to keep me off the streets, asked me if I'd be interested in taking acrobatic lessons at a local studio. And I saw this as a way for me to get out of the house. So I said, yeah, I'll try that. And I was introduced to the Estelle and Alfonso studio in Poughkeepsie, New York. I started off taking acrobatics. I really enjoyed that. Following year, I added tap. Following year, I added jazz, eventually theater, vocal training, drum lessons, anything you could think of, and even ballet at some point. So I did that for many, many years. And Estelle and Alfonso, in addition to being my dance teachers and choreographers, were also my agents. So they had connections in New York City with all the people that did all the commercials and so on and so forth. And Alfonso would send me down to New York for auditions for all kinds of things, for commercials, for television, and Broadway show auditions, and so on and so forth. That eventually manifested itself into national appearances on Ted Mack in the original Amateur Hour way back in the day. I was shot in the CBS Theater in New York, same studio at the Ed Sullivan Theater. We eventually did the Ed Sullivan Show. And that was a foray into the entertainment business. I knew from a very early age that this is what I wanted to do. After a brief stint in the Marine Corps, I did my duty, got discharged and went back to Poughkeepsie, but this time realizing I was never going to be Gene Kelly, I just started to work behind the scenes a little bit more, which I had been doing as a kid as well, but now more on the production side of things. So rigging and props and flying things and rigging things and so on and so forth as I made my way in and around Poughkeepsie, now with a wife and child at the time. I get a phone call from Alfonso one day, who had gotten a call from a friend of his, a producer of a company called Dancing Waters. Dancing Waters, for those of you who are not familiar with it, were and still are, a fountain that dances and performs with music. And as the Dancing Waters tech, you're the guy that set it up, you're the guy that trucked it, you're the guy that played it, you're the guy that tore it down, put it back in the truck, and it became what I did for several years. And one day I get a phone call from the Dancing Waters boss who says, hey, I'm going to need you to take over the Liberace show. I'm 22, maybe 23 years old at the time, and I'm already having a pretty good time touring around the country with Dancing Waters, playing fairs and concerts and backdrops for television shows and award shows. I'm already thinking things are pretty good, but now I'm about to go on the road with Liberace. And this opened so many doors for me. Fast forward a little bit, after touring through Europe and all over the United States with Liberace, we find ourselves in Homedale, New Jersey, at the Garden State Arts Center on August 16, 1977, the day Elvis Presley died. So the show goes down, the word is everywhere. We're all summoned to Liberace's dressing room, where he announces that he has heard from the entertainment director of the Las Vegas Hilton, Dick Lane, at that time, requesting that he fill in Elvis Presley's dates at the Las Vegas Hilton, in addition to all of his own dates. Wow. Quick math told me that I was about to spend an awful lot of time in Las Vegas. I went back to Poughkeepsie, New York, packed up what few belongings I had, made my way to Las Vegas, and the rest is kind of history that we're going to talk about. Dick Lane was cordial enough, knowing that I was coming with little more than my suitcase, and gave me a room here at the Las Vegas Hilton. Because I was going to be here so much, I just kept the key to the room year-round. And when I wasn't here and on tour with Liberace, I always had a home here in Las Vegas. So that forwarded itself into becoming more and more friendly with the stage crew here at the Las Vegas Hilton. Probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever received was the opportunity to work with the men and women of the Las Vegas Hilton stage crew, who, by the way, were making 3 times as much money as I was running Dancing Waters fountains for Liberace. So I tried to make that transition from being the water boy to a local stagehand. And in those days, it was a little more nepotistic. If you weren't somebody's friend or cousin or son or brother or nephew, it was kind of hard to get into Local 720. And it took a while. One day I am on the stage and just finished taking the Dancing Waters out, and Paul Anka is loading in here at the Las Vegas Hilton with a brand new set, beautiful brand new set. someone in the grid kicked the sprinkler system and the deluge began all over his new set. I put my thumb to my head and said, and I went to Dick Lane. At this point, every stagehand in the place is trying to cover up scenery and instruments and all that kind of stuff. And I said to Dick Lane, I said, hey, Dick, in that case back there, I've got a giant piece of visqueen that I put underneath of the fountain as a buffer for the tank. Maybe we pull this out and pull this over the set and we can save a little bit of the set before it gets too wet. We did that, and Dick Lane offered me a job. And that's how I got started at the Las Vegas Hilton.
Boom.
Yeah, boom, how'd you like a job, kid? So it's now 1978, I think, or something like that. And I was still touring with Liberace, when he was out, and trying to work as a local in between. But eventually this became my home, and I spent from 1977 till 1988 here on the stage at the Las Vegas Hilton. And that included Liberace, Anne Margaret, Bill Cosby, Tony Orlando, so many.
What position? What did he hire you on? Just one of the...
Initially, I was a stagehand. I was the extra guy.
Just the extra guy.
I was the extra guy. This week, I'm a carpenter. Next week, I'm a prop guy. Sometimes I ran a spotlight, not very well. Sometimes I worked on the deck as whatever. And eventually, I got invited to go up onto the rail, which was what I really wanted to do. And I worked for a man named Don Hauser.
Oh, wow.
And Don was my mentor in all things rigging. Not a very easy guy to work for.
No, he was a little grouchy.
Little grouchy, had his own demons. But the good part about that was that Don, because he, saw something in me or whatever, he'd go up there and fix that. Not tell me how. Go up there, figure it out, and fix it. I did a lot of that. And I did that for a couple of years until the Moulin Rouge came around. I was offered a real full-time position as a flyman. I had been doing that, but this was a real full-time, because we're going into a production show. I ended up rigging all of the major mechanics for all of the Moulin Rouge. And at that time, mechanics were a lot simpler than they are now. It wasn't so much computerized. It was just plain push-the-button automated. And this is how I learned my trade. I learned my trade as a stagehand, as a flyman, as a mechanic during those years of the Moulin Rouge and everything else along with it. That led into other opportunities. At the end of the Moulin Rouge, we went back to Star Policy, and we're back in that business again with a different entertainer in every night. And understand that back in those days, you closed the show on Sunday night, you opened another show on Monday. So that meant the show that was in had to be taken out, and the show that was coming in had to be put in and rehearsed all in a 24-hour period. They were long days. We made a lot of money, but we learned a lot. And again, I was blessed to be surrounded by some of the very best in the industry who taught me my trade.
Awesome. We were actually here working together. I was on the crew that would come in at night and for Dick Woods, and I would relight the room for him, recircuit area, do the whole 9 yards while you guys went away, and then had to be back at 9 in the morning or whatever it was.
Crazy thing like that.
Yeah, it was insane. So
they tried to keep the 8-hour turnaround thing in place so they didn't get stuck with overtime.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just didn't sign in till a little bit later.
So we worked here at the same times. We just passed each other, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but Don Hauser always stuck around, and and calling up to him, we're going to do this and this and this, and he was a grouchy guy though.
He was tough.
He was a grouchy man.
We got to be friends, I guess, just from working together so much, and he got to where he trusted me, and he could not sneak off. He could go off and do what his other demons were telling him to do while I ran the fly rail.
Yeah.
But I was always surrounded by some incredibly talented and well-seasoned stagehands. A gentleman named Mickey Giebler, who remains one of my mentors. His son Pete and I actually worked on the fly rail together for years. There was a gentleman named Don Filippo, and speaking of gruff guys, but some people don't know this, and this is a great thing to discuss. There were several people that were part of the Las Vegas Hilton crew who came from the performance side of the curtain before they were stagehands. Tony Orlando came off stage one night after having had some kind of a theatrical faux pas. And he goes, you know, I never worried about it, he says, because when I'm out there, all I have to do is perform because I know everybody back here knows what to do if something goes wrong. And he said, why is that? So we started comparing notes. Don Filippo was one of the original singers in the original Broadway cast of Oklahoma.
Wow.
Don Hauser was a ballet adagio performer.
Don Hauser was a
Don Hauser was
ballet.
a ballet adagio performer.
Holy cow! I would have never put that together with him.
Nathan Miller, who has already been interviewed here, was a radio personality in Atlanta and back east before he moved to Las Vegas. Rand Workmeister, another regular member of the crew, he and his family were the Flying Randells, a top trampoline act in the circus business. And this is what Tony Orlando said. He's, you know, that's it. Everybody back here was right where I was at one time. So they're going to know what to do if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And that was the key to the Las Vegas Hilton crew being one of the best stage crews anywhere in the town.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's some. Yeah, Don Hauser blows my mind.
Another gentleman, another gentleman's name was Jimmy Carter, A.J. Carter. He and his wife were the skating adagio team with the Sonia Henney show back in the day. I mean, all these people had so much theater and performance background.
That's wow. You know, putting some of those names in what they did was wow. You know, I think I only met Don Filippo once or twice. I came in and met him when I came in. I lived in that stage left box boom, you know, and watched shows here when my dad was working here back in the. So I'd sit up there and I watched so many shows up there, you know, and that was my thing. I got to see some of the greatest shows for free, you know.
Yeah.
And then later on, I'm working on the stage, which was kind of cool back in the 87, 88 and stuff like that, and then 94. Then I'm the boss of the stage. weird progression.
Full circle.
But, you know, yeah, it's kind of weird, but
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. But I know you danced on Broadway.
I did.
Gotta dance.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't the best dancer. I was not the best singer. I was none of those things, but I was willing to do anything. So a lot of times I'd audition for something and not really get the job I auditioned for, and they'd put me in to do something else.
And that's okay too. You know, that is the business. It's tuck and roll with the punches or whatever you got to do just to keep your name out there and keep it going. So it's so you said with guys at the stagehands here, we're making like 3 times the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? The difference between when you're doing these other jobs and gigs and stuff, and and I've done it with guys too. When I've worked with some guys, and we do a check comparison.
Yeah.
You know, and say, you know, when you came in with these, you're the band guys. You've been here all day long with us. You've been with, and I go, what did you make? And they tell you, and I go, well, this is what I made. And then they go, what am I doing this for? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. As luck would have it, you know, I was doing, while I was still with the Liberace show, they would use the Dancing Waters fountains as backdrops for like Mrs. America pageants and the Victor Awards and all of the other specialty television. The Mike Douglas show we shot here. During the days, we'd shoot Mike Douglas. During the nights, we'd do shows. So Lupe Carmona, who was the stage manager here at the time, who kind of took me under his wing, he said, okay, so we're going to use the Dancing Waters for this broadcast, so we're going to have to put you on a payroll. And I got my first payroll working for Dancing Waters, working through Local 720, got the check and said, okay, now I get it. And this is where I started setting my eyes on being a stagehand. But being the extra guy, I wasn't always getting a full loaf of bread, but I would take whatever crumbs I could just so I could be in this theater. You got
to pay the dues on it, and you got to do your time, and you got to bide your time, but make yourself valuable.
Funny quick story. Back in the day, all stagehands wore beepers. Guys that were on the bounce, they wore beepers, and the dispatcher could call you, leave the number at the hall. You'd stop at the phone booth, and you'd call him, and he'd tell you where to go. I saw an opportunity to make this a little better for me and pulled the dispatcher at the time, was a guy named Chris Christensen.
Oh, okay.
And I said, you know, Chris, I'm kind of like on the down and out here. I'm kind of living in my car, and I have a beeper. So I could be ASAP anywhere you want me to be. So how can we make this work? And Chris says, okay, here's what we'll do. When I will start driving the strip at about 6:30 at night, just driving up and down the strip. When you call me on the beeper and you put a 1 at the end of that message, I know it's the Las Vegas Hilton. When you put a 2, I know it's the Riviera. When you put a 3, I know it's the Dunes. When you put a 4, I know, so I had all this down. I could be driving down the strip, get a call, not even stop to call him back when I got to the stage door, which amazed an awful lot of people. How did you get here? I just called the hall like 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, and then you walk.
I happened to be in front of the Dunes when the call came in, and Randy Cardinal greeted me at the door and said, oh, so you're the replacement guy? Yeah, I am. And that generated a lot of work, and I got callbacks, and I ended up getting more work. But that was the beeper method of getting work at the time.
That is awesome. I just talked to Randy Cardinal actually a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's just got a hip replacement, and so I'll see him.
What a great guy.
Yeah,
What a really great guy.
He's going to come do the podcast, but at my house studio up there in Utah. So
cool.
Yeah, when he gets up and moving better. So yeah, he's doing good. So. That's awesome. That's a way to make the system work for you. That's
well,
good
it
thinking.
worked for the
Good
dispatcher
thinking.
because he didn't have to go to 9 names. He'd know if I didn't call him back in 10 minutes that I was either not going to make it or he had to call somebody else. But I almost always called him back in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're probably one of those guys that just knew the schedule, kind of like what I did. It was, this place always had, like you said, Sunday night was the show change here. Right. And I can't remember. I think it was Monday or Tuesday over at Ballet's.
Yep.
And then Caesars, I couldn't remember that one.
The DI is on a Wednesday, and the Sands was on a Thursday, and the Frontier. Yeah, they all change.
I would work Splash, and then go do show changes right after Splash. Just head over there. And
if you recall, then back in those days, there weren't as many people in the local, and in order to cover the jurisdiction, stagehands from all the stages had to go out and help do the show changes.
Show changes, yeah.
Became regulars. They didn't even call you. They just tell, hey, be here for a show change next week.
Yep, we'll see you next week. And I was here an awful lot with, like I say, with Steve Ripka. I did a lot with him, and a lot with Mickey also. Tons with Mickey, and then. Like I say, Dick Woods finally found out I knew what I was doing in electric, and he was like, "Here's the plans. I'll be up in my office sleeping. Come get me if you need me."
How true.
Yeah,
I did the same with Don Hauser.
Yeah, so that's what it was. I was like, "Okay, fine. Well, I got you." So.
This is great stuff, Craig.
Yeah. So this, we'll talk more about it, but this place is special.
It is.
This is
There's probably more history here, other than Rat Pack history at the Suma properties.
Yeah, but those are gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, so we're down to this place, and Caesars had that amazing history too, and then they tore that room down, and Bally's tore their room out. It's so we're pretty much down. Flamingo's still going, the original's still going, but it's not doing the big shows like they had done at one time.
Yeah.
But this is still the place that's still doing the shows, and it's got the history left in it. So it's amazing. So that's a quick overview. And so you got on this crew, and you're here for 10 years, you said?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah. Including the transition out of working for Liberace and falling into the local crew here. But I was kind of making that transition as quickly as I could. Yeah,
you definitely want to make that one quick. Were you one of those guys that also went over and filled in at the convention area when they needed extra, because this place, back when it was the real Hilton, not the franchise Hilton when it was Colony, but it was real. Man, you could work yourself to death in this place.
We would finish. You were allowed to work at that time by contract with Local 720. You could work 6 hours during the day and do 2 shows at night and never hit overtime. So we would do every call that came in for any ballroom event or any corporate event that was going on in, at the time, was the pavilion and the ballroom were the only two.
Yep.
The Hilton Center was built a little bit later, and we lived in that attic at the Hilton Center once that got going as well, because the number of guys climbing riggers wasn't anything like what it is today, because we didn't have that volume of business without all the corporate industrial type shows. Yeah. They were mostly theater shows that had a little convention center, attached to them, to the ballrooms.
Yep. I remember at the time when I was growing up, the Space Center at the Sahara.
We did the telethon there all the time.
That was the biggest private,
Right.
what do you want to call private-owned convention space. And that was 39,000 square feet.
I should mention a gentleman named Don Rux, who I keep in touch with.
Don Rux, yep.
And Gordon Hayes, your uncle, I believe.
Yep, Uncle Gordon, yep.
Right, and a couple of other guys over in that place that gave me a break. When I come in there to work the telethon on a cold call, said, "Hey, can you go up in the attic?" Pfft, sure. And I ended up working every telethon and anything they had going on over there as the extra guy. Those guys gave me a break.
Yeah. That was a good place to work. I enjoyed working over there too with my uncle here and there in the showroom with Rick Keller and that. Yeah, it was I really enjoyed that place too. It was
Joe Picorni.
Joe Picorni. Yep.
There's a name for you.
Yep. Joe Picorni and he passed away quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And him and Dick Keller owned the Vegas Swing Wing Table Company.
Right. Yep.
Worked for them for a summer. That was fun. And
they were all hustlers. These guys hustled.
well, that's okay. You bring that up. I'll reiterate that because I say this every podcast. Every stagehand is basically a whore. Any job that comes along, we grab every job we can grab.
I can't say I turned many calls down. You turn calls down, you didn't get calls back.
Yeah, and that was a thing. You didn't want to, but every stagehand I knew that had a full-time gig working in a showroom. You also had a daytime gig working somewhere else in a convention area.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it was.
Absolutely. This place was really busy with that stuff. There was so many things, events going on here all the time.
Yeah, even when I came here in '94, it was like, well, how much do you want to work? You just made my day.
Yeah, sure.
It was just like literally, how much do you want to work until you finally say, peace, time out. I got to back off for a day or two.
Not always conducive to good behavior, but we made it work.
Yeah, and the guys I didn't understand how they made it work were the ones that had demons, that did the substances that kept you going. I never understood how they could do that. It was,
There was an old joke, an old vicious circle, is work more hours so you can buy more drugs, so you can work more hours, so you can buy more drugs.
Yeah, just make that loop over and over.
Vicious circle.
Yeah. We've things have changed in this town. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that too, and we're just gonna keep going with some of this stuff. I gotta check my time, make sure I don't go over on this podcast. So we're already at our first half hour. We're at our first break already.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a break there, and we're gonna come back and go over some more stuff that we've gone through, and doing this, I'm finding all kinds of stuff that we have in common. So we will be back in just a minute with another episode with Jeff Redinger, and keep this going. Until then, Talbot, take it away.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
How am I doing?
You're great, man. Yeah. This is you're gonna enjoy doing this show, and I'm enjoying it already. You're like, crap, man, I was here. We've done this. We've worked.
Yeah, bringing up the old names.
I try to.
Craig, it's hard not to because they're such a part of it all.
Yeah. Don't ever worry about it, because I've heard that my whole life when people call me John.
I'm sorry.
And then they go, Craig, and then I go, don't worry about it.
Sorry about that.